Somewhere in Texas right now, there is an entire town with a post office, a general store, a dance hall, and a blacksmith shop where the total population is 3. Not 3,000, not 300, 3 human beings. And they haven't changed a single thing about the place since 1965. No Wi-Fi, no cell service, no interest in the modern world whatsoever. It's like someone ripped a page out of a 1960s calendar and turned it into a zip code. And honestly, that town isn't even the wildest one on this list. So if you love forgotten corners of America, hidden time capsules, and stories that most people have genuinely never heard before, do yourself a favor. Hit subscribe right now and buckle in, because this video is going to take you places you didn't know still existed. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you walked into a place and genuinely felt like you had traveled back in time? Not a museum, not a theme park, not some overpriced vintage experience designed by a marketing team. I mean a real place. A living, breathing American town where the barber still knows every customer by first name. Where the diner still has chrome stools, vinyl booths, and a jukebox in the corner playing Patsy Cline. Where the gas station sign is still hand-painted and the soda fountain still pours cherry phosphates into tall, sweating glasses. You'd think places like that don't exist anymore. You'd think the modern world swallowed all of them up a long time ago. Chain restaurants moved in, highways rerouted, big box stores crushed the little guys. But you'd be wrong. Because hidden across this country, in deserts, in mountain valleys, along forgotten highways, there are towns that simply refuse to change. Towns where the main street looks exactly the same as it did in 1962. Towns where the pace of life is so slow, it makes you wonder if they even know what year it is. And honestly, some of them might not care. Today, we are counting down 10 of the most incredible, most perfectly preserved, most stubbornly frozen in time towns in America. Towns that still feel like they are stuck in the 1960s. Now here's what's coming. One town on this list declared itself the official center of the entire universe, and nobody has been able to prove them wrong. Another one has vintage cars permanently parked on its streets, not as decorations, but because the town actually wants it that way. And the number 1 town on this list is so perfectly frozen in time that it literally inspired one of the most beloved television shows in American history. And the craziest part is, it hasn't changed since the show aired. So let's not waste another second, let's start the countdown. Number 10, Winslow, Arizona. We begin in the high desert of northern Arizona, along a cracked stretch of asphalt that used to be the most famous highway in America, Route 66. The town is called Winslow, and if that name rings a bell, there's a good reason. Back in 1972, a band released a song with a line that would be sung by millions of people for the next 50 years, standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. That one lyric put this tiny desert town on the map forever. But here's the thing most people don't realize. Winslow didn't become a time capsule because of that song. Winslow was already frozen in time long before anyone sang about it. When Interstate 40 was built and traffic stopped flowing through town, Winslow simply stopped. The old motor lodges with their flickering neon signs stayed. The dusty, sun-bleached storefronts along the highway stayed. The vintage diners with their hand-lettered menus stayed. Nobody tore anything down, nobody rebuilt. The town just quietly existed like a photograph left out in the desert sun, fading slowly but never disappearing. Today, there's a little park on 2nd Street called Stand-In on the corner park with a bronze statue of a man leaning against a lamppost holding a guitar. Across the street, a massive mural of a girl in a flatbed Ford is painted on the side of a brick building. Tourists come for the photo op. But the real magic of Winslow isn't the park, it's everything else. The quiet streets, the faded motel signs, the empty highway stretching to the horizon. If you've ever wanted to know what a classic American road trip felt like in 1963, Winslow will put you there. No time machine required. And this is just number 10, we're just getting started. Number 9, Galena, Kansas. Now let's head east, way east, to the far southeast corner of Kansas, where a tiny town of about 3,000 people sits right along the old Route 66 corridor. This is Galena, and Galena has a secret that most people driving through would never guess. The town was built on lead and zinc mining. For decades it boomed. But when the mines dried up and the highway got rerouted, the money vanished overnight. People left, businesses shuttered. And instead of demolishing the old buildings and starting over, Galena just stayed exactly as it was. The hand-painted signs, the crumbling brick facades, the old service stations with rusted pumps standing at attention like forgotten soldiers. Now here's the part that gets wild. Outside a little shop on the main road called Cars on the Route, there's a rusty, beat-up old International Harvester tow truck sitting in the dirt. It's been there for years, decades, just sitting there. That truck is widely believed to be the direct, real-life inspiration for the character Tow Mater from the animated movie Cars. The filmmakers reportedly traveled the entire length of Route 66 doing research for the film, and they stopped right here in Galena. They saw this truck. They took photos, and the rest is Hollywood history. So a rusted tow truck, abandoned in a forgotten Kansas mining town, may have helped create one of the most recognizable animated characters of all time. That is the kind of story that makes America endlessly fascinating. And speaking of things that inspired famous creations, just wait until we get to number 1. But trust me, we've got some incredible stops to make before we get there. Number 8, Philipsburg, Montana. Let's head northwest now, deep into the mountains of Montana, to a silver mining town called Philipsburg, population roughly 800 souls. Philipsburg was founded in the 1860s during the Silver Rush. By the mid-20th century, the rush was long over and the town had settled into a quiet, unhurried rhythm, a rhythm it has simply never abandoned. The main street is called Broadway, which is ironic because it is about as far from New York City Broadway as you can possibly imagine. It's lined with brightly painted Victorian-era buildings, but the vibe is pure small-town 1960s Americana. There's an old-fashioned candy store called the Sweet Palace. And I need you to picture this. Glass jars floor to ceiling filled with saltwater taffy, lemon drops, root beer barrels, and handmade fudge. Barrels of penny candy sitting on wooden floors, the smell of chocolate and sugar hitting you the second you walk through the door. This place looks like it was designed by someone who has never heard of the 21st century, and that's a compliment. Down the street there's a vintage soda fountain, a gem shop where you can pan for real sapphires in a creek, real sapphires in Montana. And then, here's the showstopper, there's a working drive-in movie theater, the only one in the region, still showing double features under the massive Montana sky on summer nights. You pull up, tune your radio to the right frequency, and watch a movie the same way your grandparents did in 1961. In 2025, a drive-in theater, still running, that alone tells you everything you need to know about Philipsburg. Number 7, Gruene, Texas. Now we drop south into the heart of the Texas Hill Country, to a little place sitting along the Guadalupe River called Gruene. Quick pronunciation note, it's pronounced green, don't say Gruene. The locals will politely correct you and then you'll feel weird about it for the rest of the day. Gruene was a thriving cotton town in the late 1800s. German immigrants built it up from nothing, a general store, a cotton gin, a dance hall. Life was good, until it wasn't. When the Great Depression hit and the boll weevil devastated the cotton crops, Gruene collapsed. People packed up and left. Buildings sat empty for decades. Weeds grew through the floorboards, paint peeled off the walls. The town was essentially abandoned. But here's the beautiful accident that saved Gruene. Because nobody was around, nobody demolished anything. The buildings just waited, quietly, patiently, for decades. In the 70s and 80s, new owners started moving in. They restored the old structures, opened shops and restaurants, but they kept everything looking exactly the way it did in the early to mid-20th century. No modernization, no corporate makeovers, just careful restoration. The crown jewel is Gruene Hall, built in 1878. It is the oldest continuously operating dance hall in the entire state of Texas. Inside, you'll find the original wooden plank floors worn smooth by over a century of boot heels, screen doors that creak when they swing, no air conditioning, just open windows, ceiling fans, and the warm Texas breeze. Music legends have played this stage. And on any given Friday or Saturday night, you can still walk in, grab a cold drink, and two-step to live country music like it's 1964. The general store is still operating, the old water tower still stands tall, and the entire town covers maybe 2 square blocks. That's it, 2 blocks that feel like they were carved out of time and set aside for safekeeping. Number 6, Madrid, New Mexico. We're heading to the Turquoise Trail now, a scenic highway winding between Albuquerque and Santa Fe through red desert hills and juniper forests. About halfway along that road, you'll find Madrid. And before I say another word, it's pronounced Madrid, not Madrid, Locals are very particular about this. Say it wrong and every head on Main Street will turn. Madrid has one of the most dramatic backstories of any town on this list. In its prime, Madrid was a coal mining boomtown, and it was famous for something unexpected: Christmas lights. Every holiday season, the entire town was decorated with such elaborate, spectacular light displays that airlines actually rerouted commercial flights over Madrid so passengers could look down and see the town glowing in the desert darkness from the sky. That is not an exaggeration. That really happened. But by the 1950s, the coal mines shut down, the town emptied, and for roughly 2 decades, Madrid was a genuine ghost town, not a tourist ghost town, a real one: wind whistling through broken windows, tumbleweeds rolling down the main road, silence. Then something unexpected happened. In the late 60s and early 70s, artists, musicians, and counterculture types discovered Madrid. They bought abandoned miners' shacks for almost nothing, in some cases literally a few $100s. They set up studios, opened galleries, planted gardens, and they preserved the old mining town's bones while breathing in an entirely new soul. Today, Madrid is this incredible collision of 1950s mining grit and 1960s bohemian freedom. There's a vintage baseball field, a tavern built inside an old engine repair shop, art galleries operating out of tin-roofed shacks, and the whole town hums with this wonderfully rebellious, time-defying energy. Madrid didn't just freeze in time, it froze in the most interesting time. Alright, we are officially at the halfway point, and I need to be honest with you, everything we've covered so far, that was the warm-up. The next 5 towns are on a completely different level. Coming up, there's a town that officially declared itself the center of the universe and dared anyone to prove otherwise. There's a town whose entire population fits inside a pickup truck. A town that literally has vintage cars permanently parked on its streets like it's frozen mid-scene in a 1960s movie. And the number 1 town on this list, number 1, directly inspired one of the most watched television shows in American history, and walking through it today feels so eerily authentic that visitors have literally broken down in tears. I am not making that up, so keep watching because the best is absolutely ahead of us. Number 5, Wallace, Idaho. Deep in the Silver Valley of northern Idaho, buried between forested mountains and winding canyon roads, sits a town called Wallace. Population, under 800. Now, Wallace is special for a lot of reasons, but let's start with the big one. Every single building in the entire downtown commercial district is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Every single one, the whole district. That's extraordinarily rare for any American town, let alone one this small. The story of how Wallace preserved itself is legendary. Back in 1991, Interstate 90 was the last transcontinental highway still being completed across the United States. The final unfinished section ran right through the heart of Wallace. The government wanted to bulldoze a path straight through downtown. The town fought back, hard, for years. Eventually, a compromise was reached. The interstate would be built over the town on a massive elevated viaduct literally suspended above the rooftops. The town survived, the buildings survived, and the character of Wallace survived with them. But the story doesn't end there. In 2004, the mayor of Wallace held a formal ceremony in the middle of town. He stood at an intersection surrounded by residents and press and officially declared Wallace, Idaho, the center of the universe. His argument: no one had ever scientifically proven that it wasn't the center of the universe. Therefore, by default, it must be. They installed a special manhole cover marking the exact spot. Nobody has successfully challenged the claim since. Walking through Wallace today feels like walking through a working 1960s mining town. Brick buildings with original signage, vintage lampposts, corner bars with wood-paneled walls. The old Oasis Rooms, a former bordello, is now a museum offering tour. The whole town is honest about its history, preserving everything, the beautiful and the scandalous alike. Wallace doesn't just feel stuck in the 60s, it feels stuck in the 60s and proud of it. Number 4, Luckenbach, Texas. Remember the town I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, the one with a population of 3, here it is. Luckenbach, Texas is located in the hill country between Fredericksburg and Johnson City, and I need to set your expectations properly before I describe this place. When I say town, I don't mean a small town, I mean a crossroads in the middle of a field with 4 buildings on it. A general store, a post office, a blacksmith shop, and a dance hall, that's it. That is the entire town of Luckenbach. There are no side streets, no residential neighborhoods, no gas stations, nothing. The population fluctuates between 3 and maybe 25 depending on who's around that day and how generous you're being with the definition of resident. Luckenbach became famous in 1977 when a massive country hit name-dropped the town. The song's message was simple: let's just go to Luckenbach and forget about the rat race, forget about keeping up with the Joneses, just simplify. And apparently Luckenbach took that advice to heart, because nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, has changed since. The general store still sells cold drinks out of an ancient cooler. Old license plates and faded photos line the walls. Under the sprawling oak trees out front, there's an informal guitar circle happening almost every afternoon. Strangers sit in folding chairs, pass guitars around, and play old country songs until the sun goes down. On weekends, the dance hall fills up with live music, raw, no frills, honest-to-goodness country, no fancy lighting, no VIP sections, no bottle service, just wooden benches, cold beverages, and songs played on guitars that have seen better days. There's no Wi-Fi in Luckenbach. Cell service is unreliable at best, and that is 100% the point. You don't go to Luckenbach to be connected, you go to disconnect. You go to sit under a tree, feel the breeze, listen to a stranger play a song, and for a little while remember what America felt like before everything got so impossibly complicated. People come from all over the country to do exactly that, and they keep coming back. 3 people, 4 buildings, 1 feeling, that's Luckenbach. Number 3, Lowell, Arizona. Alright, this next one is genuinely one of the strangest, most visually stunning entries on the entire list, and I guarantee most of you have never heard of it. Lowell is technically a neighborhood within the city of Bisbee, in the far southeastern corner of Arizona, just a few miles from the Mexican border. In its heyday, the 1940s, 50s, and early 60s, Lowell was the commercial heart of the region. A bustling strip of shops, car dealerships, diners, and businesses serving the thousands of workers in the nearby Lavender Pit copper mine. But when the mine operations slowed and the interstate pulled traffic away, Lowell faded fast. Businesses closed, storefronts went dark, the strip that once buzzed with life went silent. Here's where it gets incredible. In the early 2000s, the community decided to restore Lowell's main drag, Airy Street, to look exactly, precisely, meticulously the way it did in the late 1950s and early 1960s. And they didn't do this halfway, they went absolutely all in. Vintage automobiles, polished Chevrolets, gleaming Fords, Finn Buicks are permanently parked along the curb, not behind ropes, not in a museum, just sitting there on the street as if their owners just stepped into the barbershop for a trim and a shave and will be back any minute. Old gas pumps stand at attention outside a restored service station. A vintage drive-in restaurant sign glows neon pink and turquoise at night. The storefronts have been restored with period-correct signage, window displays, and awnings. Walking down Airy Street in Lowell is genuinely deeply surreal. Your brain knows it's the modern era, but your eyes are telling you it's 1961. The cognitive dissonance is real. It feels like walking onto a movie set, except there are no cameras, no crew, no director yelling cut. It's just there, permanently, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for anyone who wants to step into it. If you only visit one town on this entire list, make it Lowell. Bring a camera, you're going to need it. Number 2, Seligman, Arizona. We're back in Arizona because apparently the Grand Canyon State has a genuine superpower when it comes to freezing itself in time. Seligman sits on old Route 66 in the high desert, about 70 miles west of Flagstaff. Today, it's a quirky, colorful, endlessly photogenic little town buzzing with tourists and nostalgia, but it came terrifyingly close to disappearing forever. When Interstate 40 was completed in 1978, it bypassed Seligman entirely. The river of traffic that had sustained the town for decades dried up in a matter of months. Motels lost their guests, diners lost their customers, gas stations lost their purpose. One by one, businesses closed, families packed up. Seligman was circling the drain. But one man, one single, stubborn, extraordinary man refused to let it die. His name was Angel Delgadillo. He was the town barber. He had cut hair in Seligman for decades, and he was not about to watch his town become a ghost. So in 1987, Angel launched a one-man campaign to get Route 66 officially recognized and protected as a historic highway. He wrote letters to politicians. He made phone calls to preservation groups. He drove to other dying Route 66 towns and rallied their support. He begged, argued, and refused to take no for an answer. And he won. The historic Route 66 Association was founded right there in Seligman, Arizona, and that movement didn't just save Seligman, it helped save dozens of towns along the entire 2,400-mile route. Today, Seligman is alive and thriving. The old motels with their vintage neon signs still stand, flickering to life every evening. The diners still serve burgers, fries, and milkshakes. Roadside attractions line the highway, and Angel's Barbershop is still there, converted into a visitor center and museum filled with photographs, newspaper clippings, and memories. And here's one more layer to this story. Seligman was a major inspiration for the fictional town of Radiator Springs in the Pixar movie Cars. The filmmakers visited Seligman during their research, met Angel, heard his story, and were deeply moved. The idea of a small town bypassed by a highway fighting to stay alive that became the emotional core of the entire film. So this tiny, nearly dead desert town saved itself, saved a historic American highway, and then inspired a billion-dollar animated movie franchise. Angel Delgadillo, a barber from Seligman, Arizona, did all of that. If that's not the most American underdog story of all time, I truly don't know what is. Okay, we have seen ghost towns reborn, we've met a barber who saved an entire highway. We've visited a town of 3 people, a town that claims to be the center of the universe, and a street where it's permanently 1961. But number one is different. Number 1 isn't just a town that feels like the 60s. Number 1 is the town that defined what the 60s felt like for an entire generation of Americans. And the most extraordinary thing about it, it's still exactly the same, right now, today, as you're watching this. Let me show you. Number 1, Mount Airy, North Carolina. If you grew up in America, or if you've ever loved American television, you know Mayberry. Mayberry, the quiet, impossibly charming fictional town from the Andy Griffith Show. The town where Sheriff Andy Taylor kept the peace without ever carrying a gun, where Aunt Bee always had fresh pie cooling on the windowsill, where Barney Fife fumbled through every situation but meant well, where Floyd the barber gave terrible haircuts and even worse advice, where Opie learned life lessons by the fishing hole. Mayberry represented something. It represented the America people wished they lived in. Simple, kind, honest, slow, safe, a place where everybody knew everybody and life's biggest crisis was a misunderstanding at the church social. For decades, people assumed Mayberry was pure fiction, a fantasy, a writer's idealized dream that never existed in the real world. They were wrong. Mayberry was real. It's called Mount Airy, North Carolina, and it's the hometown of Andy Griffith himself. Andy Griffith grew up in Mount Airy. He went to school there. He got his first guitar there. He ate at the local diner. He hung out at the barber shop. And when he got his own television show, he built Mayberry from memory, his real memories of his real hometown. And here's what stuns people when they visit: Mount Airy didn't become Mayberry as a tourism gimmick after the show became famous. Mount Airy was always this way. The show was based on the town, and the town simply never changed. The main street, actually called Main Street, still has the same small-town grid it had in the 1960s. The buildings are the same, the storefronts look the same, the pace feels the same. There's a real barber shop called Floyd City Barber Shop, named after the show's character but originally inspired by an actual barbershop in town. You can walk in, sit down in a real barber chair, and get a real haircut while surrounded by Andy Griffith memorabilia. The barbers there will talk to you about the town, about Andy, about the old days, and they'll take their time doing it, because nobody rushes in Mount Airy. Their Snappy Lunch, a diner that has been open since 1923. Their legendary pork chop sandwich has been made the exact same way for decades. You sit at the counter on a round chrome stool and eat a sandwich that tastes exactly like it did when Andy Griffith used to eat there as a kid growing up on these streets. You can take a tour of the town in a vintage squad car, a black and white Ford Galaxy, just like the one from the show. A guide in a deputy's uniform drives you past Andy's childhood home, past the old landmarks, past the real-life locations that were recreated on a Hollywood soundstage thousands of miles away. There's an Andy Griffith Museum housing the largest collection of show memorabilia anywhere in the world. There's a bronze statue on Main Street of Andy and Opie walking side by side toward the fishing hole, perfectly recreating the iconic opening credits that millions of Americans watched every single week. Every September the town hosts Mayberry Days, a massive multi-day festival where thousands of fans pour into Mount Airy from all over the country and even internationally. Tribute artists perform scenes from the show. There are pie-eating contests, checkers tournaments on the sidewalk, square dancing in the street. For a few magical days it doesn't just feel like the 60s. It is the 60s completely, joyfully, without apology. But here's the thing that truly makes Mount Airy #1 on this list. It's not the museum, it's not the squad car tour, it's not the festivals, it's the town itself. Mount Airy doesn't feel like a tourist attraction that's pretending to be a small town. It feels like a small town that happens to attract tourists. The people there genuinely live at a slower pace. Neighbors actually know each other. Shop owners greet you by name after your second visit. Kids ride bikes down tree-lined streets. Porches have rocking chairs on them not for decoration but because people actually sit in them every evening. Visitors have described walking through Mount Airy and being overcome with emotion not because of the television show, but because of the realization that this kind of life still exists. That somewhere in America people still live this way, unhurried, uncomplicated, connected to each other in ways that most of us have forgotten. Mount Airy, North Carolina is the real Mayberry. It was the real Mayberry before the show. It was the real Mayberry during the show. And 60 years later it is still the real Mayberry. As long as this town has anything to say about it, it always will be. And that is why it's #1. So there you have it, 10 American towns that still feel like they are completely, beautifully, stubbornly stuck in the 1960s. We traveled from the sun-scorched Route 66 time capsules of Winslow and Seligman, Arizona, to the impossibly charming dance halls of Gruene and Luckenbach, Texas. We explored the ghost town-turned-artist colony of Madrid, New Mexico, and the self-proclaimed center of the universe in Wallace, Idaho. We stood on a street in Lowell, Arizona where it is permanently 1961. We found the rusty old truck in Galena, Kansas, that helped inspire a Hollywood legend. We stepped into a real drive-in theater in Philipsburg, Montana. And we ended where we had to end, in Mount Airy, North Carolina, the real Mayberry, the town that proved a television fantasy was never really a fantasy at all. These towns remind us of something important. Not every place in America is racing to become the future. Some places looked at the future, shrugged, and said, "No thanks, we're good right here." And walking through any one of these towns, hearing the music, smelling the pie, seeing the neon signs flicker on at dusk, you might just find yourself thinking they made the right call. Now I have to hear from you, which one of these towns surprised you the most? Have you been to any of them? Or better yet, do you live in a town that still feels like it's stuck in another era? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single one and I always reply to the best ones. If this video made you want to hit the road and visit one of these places, do me a huge favor, smash that like button. It genuinely helps this video reach more people and it takes you about half a second. A pretty good deal if you ask me. And if you're not subscribed yet, come on, you made it this far, you clearly belong here. Hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, and I promise you, the next video is going to be just as good. Maybe better, we'll see. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.